Welcome to the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. We are excited you have decided to join us today.
Hey everybody, welcome back to the Elevate Podcast. Robert Kalin here.
Mike Newman here.
And you got Bryan here. Good to see you guys.
I am so excited to sit down with you guys and chat about vision today, because both of you guys have very unique perspectives on vision and what this looks like. So let's just jump right into it.
Vision is such an awesome topic. And I don't think it's something where we spend enough time vision casting for our own lives. When was the last time you closed your eyes and imagined your future, right?
Yeah.
And I think that, if we were to just do that, for a second and say, okay, what do I see myself a year from now? Then you begin to set that vision personally about what you want to do.
Well, I'm going to be honest. When I worked at Microsoft, my direct manager would ask me, "Where do you want to be in 5 years?" And I was like deer in the headlights. I don't know. That maybe not here.
That's right. I think everybody's inundated with the day-to-day grind, the things they got to
Right.
do. We got little kids. You got to make the mortgage. Whatever.
Yeah.
It's like how am I supposed to answer a question like where do I see myself in 5 years? But if you don't, and one of the fact is the Bible. It's a worldwide best-selling book. It says where there's no vision, people perish.
Yeah.
That literally means that you die. If there's no vision, you die. So if that's true, don't you want to get a little vision in your life? Don't you want to have something to kind of live for, run towards? So I love this topic.
Yeah, and I think it's really relevant to not only our personal lives, but our business and people that we know. So I'll tell this quick story. I got a good friend who is on the heart transplant list, okay? Kind of a scary thing to be. So I got an opportunity to spend a couple of weeks with him, and part of when I left I said to him, so you guys need to figure out some things that you can look forward to, because the next 2 years are going to be a difficult time. Yep. And so when we get into difficulty, I think that's oftentimes the time we need to stop and say, where do I see myself?
Yeah,
that's a key indicator. Yep.
Yeah.
So good.
Yeah.
Man, here's the thing is in life, the truth is the world's pulling us back. The problems that we're facing are slowing us down. And it's through kind of a worthwhile pursuit. It's having something on the horizon that we're aiming at. Whether it's a vacation or a trip or a cool moment. In the same regard, dreaming about a future, a preferred future. This is the language I always use.
Absolutely.
What is your preferred future as it pertains to your soul, your spirit, right? Yourself, the relationships that matter most in your life, your job, and your finances, right? Those are kind of the 5 areas that I'm always focusing on and thinking about and going, when I close my eyes and when I dream about it, I go, what's my preferred future in that area? So it doesn't stop there, though. You have to write it down. Yeah. You have to then tell somebody, and then you have to just take action.
Yeah, I think those points that you just made of writing it down is so key, because I can say, well, I want to have, $4 million when I retire. Okay. And I can think about that. But when I write it down, now I'm saying to myself, well, I got to really ask the next question about how can I get $4 million and what do I need to do? Because there's a big gap between what we think and what we do, which is the action point that you said.
So good.
Yeah. Well, I do think about like Jim Carrey, his story of writing down $1 million check and putting it in his wallet.
Oh, I love that story.
Right.
Yep.
And to have him he's able to cash it because he got there. He wrote it down and he did it.
Oh man, there's something tied to, I always say this: what gets written down gets done.
Yeah. And
somehow, whether you have a journal or whether you have, it's just not the same when you type it. I want to be
honest.
honest.
It's not. Yeah, I agree with you.
But writing and
That's why I got this
about
thing.
it intentionally logs it in the subconscious somehow. Yeah. And you're more likely to be aware of it, think about it, talk about it, share what you wrote, and ultimately do it. If it actually matters to you.
Well, you're talking about, your preferred future. And I think there's a piece that I like to say is designing your preferred future, right? Because every single one of us has the ability to design our own future and create habits that get us there.
Yes.
And I think that's often one of the things that's overlooked I think a lot of times, if you are stuck in a day-to-day 9 to 5, doing the thing, doing the grind, stuck in the motions, you're not thinking about that. Like you pointed out earlier, you're actually living someone else's dream.
Mm-hmm.
And building their dream.
Exactly. And so for you got into business for a reason, right? And I think of, we all want our businesses to be able to serve us rather than the other way around, serving our business constantly, right?
Yeah,
and
when we create a business, we're not creating a job for ourselves, which could often be a jail sentence.
Right.
Some people start businesses and it's like now they're tethered to it 80, 100 hours a week, right? And it's just becomes, they're not living the dream. It's a nightmare now.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
That's good.
It's a bummer because, and I actually want to go back to your thought, Robert, about those that actually are in the grind and working.
Yeah.
It's not a matter of that person going and chasing a side hustle and then all of a sudden having vision. I want to encourage anybody listening that is in the 9 to 5, and we should probably think more about this too and do a topic on it, but this idea of leading up. While you're there at whatever your job is right now, you can still lead in that environment. You can still cast vision in that environment. You can even, guess what? You can have goals that you set for yourself and vision that you cast for yourself. I think that's a great, safe place to even practice visioning, dreaming, and it's not something that comes overnight, but it comes through being exposed to that environment. That's a safe place to dream and learn and whatnot. Now, when you start a business, that's a huge risk and can quickly turn the other way.
If you are in that 9 to 5 job, having been a leader in a big organization, people would sometimes ask, so what's the vision for this, whatever this is? And I would turn around and say, well, what do you think the vision for this is? Because it was their role to come up with it, but sometimes they just don't feel empowered to say, well, I really think we should do this and this and this and this, because the boss should be figuring that out. Yeah. So if I was working for Bryan in one of his places and I was a manager in his store, and every time he comes in, I say, so Bryan, what's the vision for our store this week? He's probably going to get tired of that.
Well, yeah, and truthfully, I've casted vision, I've kind of set the stage, but I want to involve you. Mm-hmm. Mike, I think you're brilliant. I think you got some good ideas. I think you probably see things differently too, and ways to reach this community. So I want to involve you in the process of what our vision for the store should be. You see how I'm using language, us, our, involvement equals ownership. And this was a key idea that my pastor years ago, shout out Byron O'Neill. We started a church together over in the Proctor district of Tacoma called Journey Community Church. It's still alive today, but this is one of those thoughts that he beat down into my brain. Involvement equals ownership. I had to get volunteers for the worship team, volunteers for the youth group, volunteers to set up chairs on a Sunday. And I would involve them in why. The vision. I cast vision about why what we're doing matters. And I would hear and listen and seek their feedback. Man, tell me, what are you good at? Okay, let's put you here. Involvement, right? And ultimately, when you listen and you ask for feedback and you involve your team members and those around you, they own that thing and can take it to another level.
Right. Right.
So
that's I think there's just so many times as leaders inside an organization, we're just figuring out what's the next thing we need to do, what's our next key performance indicator, and we forget that the delivery of it happens through people. Ooh. And finding out what we can contribute to them is huge in that vision part, because everybody's got a dream. Mm-hmm. My dream might be I want to work for Bryan, and I want to be part of that team and part of that success. Not everybody wants to take the risk of being an entrepreneur.
Absolutely.
But I want to add the best value I can, and so Bryan's going to invest in me to make sure I'm prepared to do whatever that next thing is. And part of that investment is just showing up and having a conversation.
100%.
Asking lots of questions. I love that you you were talking about turning the question on them. Well, what do you think the vision is for this? Yeah. I think that's the thing, right?
That's a great tactic.
If you ask a question, it causes them to think about what they would do. And most of the time they just haven't had the time to think about, well, what would I do?
As leaders and business owners, one of the easiest ways to get fatigued is having to repeat.
Yep.
The truth is our team, until we're actually sick and tired of saying the same things over and over and over again, that might be the first time that they've actually heard it.
Right. Yep.
So I love that idea of flipping the script, and I've deployed that now, where I go, what are you hearing me say? Or what do you think the vision is based on what I shared with you? Getting it to anchor in, and then have them kind of be able to regurgitate it, right? And go, because that's what we want to do. We want to multiply the vision. We want to multiply the why we do what we do, and why it matters.
Exactly. There's so much that happens when we have that conversation. We ask the question, we engage people in getting their feedback that really does that part that you were saying of getting a commitment from them to move forward. And when I think of the challenges that we face in casting a vision, is really about, do we get sick and tired, as Bryan said, of hearing ourselves say it?
Yeah.
And it's not embedded in. And so we have to be able to have that ongoing conversation, and we just need to change it up a little bit so that we don't get tired of it.
I 100% agree that, as vision casters, you say it until you're blue in the face, and then finally somebody starts to recognize, like, oh, that's what you mean.
Yeah.
It's like, yeah. I'm sick of saying it now. So, but you have to say it, because you have to give them that opportunity to really understand what you're driving at. And the entire process of them hearing your vision is also aligning it with how you're modeling it, right? They're hearing what you're saying. Maybe they don't understand what it means exactly, but they're looking at what you're doing and going, oh, this is what he means by that, right?
Yep.
Yeah, so I think about both of your businesses, and similar but different, and the culture that you have there. And it's created by what people see you as the leader in that organization do. And I think about a time when I was a young administrator in a school, and I was walking beside the principal, and it was after lunchtime. And so you can imagine what a hallway looks like. And he would bend over and pick up the paper. And he would bend over and pick up the paper, just walking down the hallway. And I stopped him, and I said, so, I'm doing what you're doing, but why do we do this? And he goes, you see anybody else out here? I said, no. And he says, that's why we do it, because this is part of what we do to take care of the building. Well, you guys have your standard of what you want your front of your business to look like, how you want people to greet. That's all part of your vision and the implementation of it. And if people don't see you doing it, they're not going to know what the standard really is.
Yeah.
I want you to greet customers when they come in the store. Hi.
Yeah.
Or do you have the Bryan hi?
Yeah.
Welcome in, guys.
Yeah.
One of my favorite things at our shop to do is, if I just got some downtime and going to spend a few moments there, first thing I do is I go and grab the broom and dustpan, and I love to get out on the patio. It's fun because I look like I'm working there now at that moment, and I'm able to connect with customers, and I'm able to just go from the top to the bottom, because really, you nailed it. Everything that we do or don't do says something about who we are and what we believe visually. So from the outside to the inside, to the greeting, to the music, to the lighting, to everything, it matters. And so, but we have to demonstrate what we want done, and I think we could all take a great note from the idea of, let's go back to the basics and just continue to teach and instill and push through the DNA, the culture we want for our companies, because it's not just going to happen by default.
You got to be the Vince Lombardi of your team. Take them back to the basics.
Got to.
And focus on it.
And force it to be what we want it to be.
Yeah.
And that can be sometimes challenging.
Yeah.
Force is a strong word to even use. But, I love how Dave Ramsey always talks about how your culture will be whatever you allow it to be, or whatever you force it or make it to be.
Right.
And we have to craft it. Let's be culture crafters. Let's get in here and go. Yeah.
Imagine it like a sculpture. You're making clay.
I've never made a sculpture, but I'm imagining that.
Yeah.
Like a sculpture. Like
you get to model the clay into whatever you want it to look like.
And that's it.
And massage it and heat it up.
Don't
and
just
all that,
leave it out there to dry out.
Just a big lump.
Open world.
That's right. Well, for all the listeners who are thinking about vision in their businesses, what would be your number one recommendation for just vision in general. How do maybe they don't have a vision. Maybe they haven't taken the time to recapture the vision. Maybe they've lost it over, decades of doing all the work in the business.
I think you've got to reimagine or imagine what you want it to be. That becomes your vision. And then being able to say, 5 years from now, here's what I want, or 10 years from now, here's what I want. And some people say that 5 or 10 years is too long a period of time. I disagree, because that gives you hope for the future. And so you create that, and then you write it down, as Bryan was saying earlier, and then you put down your action steps, and it moves in that direction. Yeah. Now, if you're wanting a vision statement, it doesn't need to be really big and long. It needs to be like one sentence. Yeah. So my vision statement for my business is preparing the next generation of leaders. That's what it is.
That's awesome.
And
you're very clear on that. You know exactly what you're doing.
Exactly. And so the same thing in your life, if you want something in your life, be clear about what it is. Don't fill it up with a bunch of extra words. Be really clear.
Yeah.
And then you're going to be able to move forward.
That's good. What about you, Bryan?
I would just say immediately, if you're listening to this podcast, leave your office, leave your job, go on a vacation, take time away. I'm dead serious. Go dream again. I'm being dead serious, because those of you that aren't having the ability to dream or have fresh vision come in, it's because you're in the middle of the rat race.
Right.
You're on the hamster wheel. You're doing. If you're watching this, you can see what I'm doing here with my hands. You have to just put a period in the past, hit pause on the day, let some stuff kind of fall to the wayside. I'm not even kidding you. And just go take care of you so that you can come back with fresh eyes, fresh vision, fresh noise, fresh information for your team, and deploy it. You got to get away, though. Rest.
Working from rest rather than resting from work.
Yes.
Yeah.
Good stuff. Good stuff.
I think of, vision is really navigating your business to significance or success, whatever that looks like in your world. And being able to take a moment to just pause and to consider, what is that 5-year, 10-year, what does that look like? And, as we write those things down, you say you've got a 10-year vision, and it's, I want to have $4 million, and I want to have 3 extra locations of my business. You write that down and you break it down. Well, 5 years, I need to have at least this. 2 years, I need to have this. And every year you're working toward that bigger vision and what that looks like.
Exactly what you guys are saying is, you're reverse engineering your life. Right? You're going, here's where I am today. What is the first and best next step towards that goal?
Right.
And it's
vision.
Go mow a lawn. I mean, you'll be $20 closer to your $4 million retirement.
Yeah.
And that's what stirs the hustle.
100%.
Right? But you got to get vision first.
Yeah.
So,
and that's really starting with the end in mind.
Bingo.
Right?
That's it.
Yeah. Good stuff.
That's awesome. All right, guys, I hope this episode has been inspiring for you in casting vision for your team and your business and your organization and your life. Actually putting this into practice will be a game changer for you. And I wish you all the success in the world. For you guys as well, thanks for being here. Appreciate you.
Always a joy.
All right. Always fun to be here.
All right, we'll see you next time, guys. Take care.
Thanks for joining us today on the Elevate Podcast, your resource for all things business, brand, and leadership. For a deeper dive into the content and to get access to resources like our free show notes, go to countercultureleaders.com/podcast and sign up for our newsletter. Hey, don't forget to like, rate, and review, and subscribe, and share this content with your friends and colleagues. This is Mike Newman, looking forward to seeing you next week.